Don't forget to like and subscribe. Welcome back to Manage It Monday, your midday motivation to optimize your food safety strategies and elevate your business operations with Rochelle Howell. Welcome back to Manage It Monday. I'm so glad you're here. This week is hitting home. It is where I got my start in food safety. This week, we are talking about the regulatory world and answering a very common question. I want to sell a certain type of product, or I want to open this type of business. Where do I go and what do I do? Now, for those of you dreaming of selling your delicious desserts, packaging your famous chili, bottling your secret sauce, or opening a manufacturing plant, understanding which regulatory body oversees your business should be the number one thing on your to-do list, because knowing whether you need the FDA, USDA, or local health department's approval, not only does it tell you what rules you need to follow, but it also ensures you choose the right type of facility to produce your products safely and legally. So, today, I'll walk you through the key regulatory bodies, what they oversee, and how that applies to you. It's going to get real nerdy. I love this stuff, but stay with me. And if you're still confused and need some assistance setting up your business, hey, the Paperwork Chef is just a coaching call away. Visit our website at www.thepaperworkchef.com for more info. Now grab your lunch, like this video so you can watch it later, and let's get started. First up, agencies that tap into our producers. The USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. They oversee meat like beef, pork, lamb, and goat, poultry like chicken, turkey, duck, goose, and certain game birds, egg products, processed eggs, liquid, frozen, or dried, catfish and all catfish products, limited exotic meats that include things like deer, elk, bison, and rabbit under a voluntary inspection, and then products with significant meat or poultry content, such as about 2% cooked meat or 3% raw meat. Some examples of these are pot pies, soups, and frozen meals. They're also responsible for things like animal welfare and humane handling and slaughtering practices. The USDA are going to be mainly your farm producers. If your products fall under one of these main buckets, here are some of the permits or registrations that you'll be responsible for and you should be concerned about. Number one, the Meat and Poultry Inspection Grant of Inspection. Facilities that are processing meat, poultry, or egg products for commercial sale must have this license. This allows the USDA inspectors to oversee operations and ensure compliance. Next up, an egg handler license. Businesses that are selling processed egg products, such as liquid eggs, frozen or dried, you're going to need to tap in and get this license. It ensures proper handling, storage, and labeling of egg products. Voluntary inspection services for exotic meats is another permit that you may consider if you are a producer of bison, deer, or rabbit and you want to get that USDA certification. This adds that mark, that stamp of inspection for marketing purposes. If you're interested in any of these licenses, you'll want to contact your USDA FSIS office. Now, next up, the very popular FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They oversee packaged and processed foods, all non-meat, poultry processed foods, beverages, and dietary supplements. They monitor produce such as fresh fruits and vegetables, including things like sprouts, seafood, except for catfish. So things like fish, shellfish, and other seafood products. Dairy products like milk, cheese, and other dairy items. Bakery items, including bread, cakes, and pastries, unless they contain a significant amount of meat. And then shell eggs. This is where those whole eggs in the shell that are processed fall under. Labeling, allergen declarations, nutrition facts, and ingredient list are also something that the FDA is over. And then they usually are monitoring these production facilities' GMPs for food that is being stored or sold across state lines. If you fall under the FDA jurisdiction, then be aware of these regulations and programs that you may have to address. The FDA food facility registration. All food facilities that manufacture, process, pack, or store human or animal food, must register their facility. This ensures that these facilities are listed in that database so they can get inspected and that we can ensure they're compliant. The second is the produce safety rule compliance. You'll need this if you have a farm and you're growing fresh produce that's covered under a regulation called FSMA. This requires some training and documentation and inspections for produce safety. Now, seafood HACCP, you'll need to make sure you're in compliant if you are a seafood processor or importer. This requires that you have a hazard analysis and critical control point, HACCP, plan for seafood, and that you're following it. Next, if you have acidified or low acid canned food, you'll need to register that. Those are businesses that are producing these types of canned foods, such as pickles and sauces. Getting this registration ensures that proper processing is done to prevent botulism and other foodborne illness. So make sure you check in. Now, on to the boots on the ground regulatory departments. Those that are considered the locals: state, county, city, tribal. They oversee food production, storage, manufacturing, distribution, and retail sales within the state, also known as intrastate. They may tap in for farming, slaughtering, processing, and other things like temporary events, those great festivals and state fairs. You'll see those local inspectors, usually from the city and the county, if you're considered a retail facility, such as a restaurant, food trucks, bakeries, farmer market vendors, because you are selling directly to the consumer, not as a wholesaler. So now, let's talk about permits and registrations for the state. You'll need that food processor manufacturer license if you are a facility that is like a manufacturing bakery, cannery, meat processor, and you handle, process, package, or prepare food for sale in the state. You'll need a cottage food registration if you're planning to be a home-based business that's producing low-risk, non-perishable foods, such as those cakes and candies and jams and jellies. And then you'll need a meat and poultry inspection license if that's applicable to you in your particular state. Don't forget a dairy license if you are processing those items, dairy, in the state. You may need a wholesale food distributor license if you are distributing food products to other retailers or other businesses, such as warehouses or brokers. And then a shellfish dealer license. You may need one of those if you are processing or distributing or handling molluscan shellfish. Those are things like oysters and clams. Don't forget your alcoholic beverage license if you have a winery or a brewery or a distillery or any establishments that is producing or selling alcohol that you make. And don't forget that egg handler license. If you are an egg producer and a processor, or you're distributing and selling eggs, you're going to want to tap in and make sure you have that license. Farmers market vendor registrations if you're a farmer in that state and selling at certain markets. And then an animal feed and pet food registration. Now, this is for businesses that are producing or distributing animal feed or pet food. Yes, if you are feeding animals, you have to treat the food as safe as humans. Now, last but not least, Let's talk about where I spent most of my career, the local government. How many times did people ask, was I deliver us from Eva? And I was, at least a little bit. So local government, that's one of the groups of the people that often put those letter grades or their scores on the restaurant doors. And they're the ones that you're usually scared that will shut you down. And you may have seen those signs, closed by the health department. That was us. Those are the people who work those long, hot summer days, inspecting your favorite summer festival and all those food booths. And they have people working to ensure you won't get sick. So let's talk about the key regulations for those hardworking local health department officials. They're usually going to have a local code or ordinance that's usually based on the FDA retail food code, or maybe the state has passed some type of code, and it's really based on scientific principles. So they're always going to check that those requirements are met, whatever is set for the state. And when it comes to, in the county, when it comes to those permits, you may see something like a retail food permit or license. If you're a restaurant, a food truck, a grocery store, or have some kind of other similar operations, you'll have some type of local permit or license that allows you to sell under the local health department, and that is called a retail health permit. And then you may have something called a temporary food event permit or something like that allows you to sell at markets or have pop-up events or things like that. That ensures that you're compliant with the local standards for temporary setups. And then they'll probably have something like a mobile unit permit. And you may need that if you're like a food truck or a cart or have vending machines. So they may have different levels of permits or different types of permits at the local health department. And those are all to ensure that you're selling safe food no matter where you are. So I know we've covered a lot. Remember, there are 3 levels of regulatory bodies: federal, state, and local. And they usually have one or more permits and licenses that you're going to need depending on the type of business and the products you sell. We understand that it can be confusing, and we know that you aren't looking to have your business shut down because you weren't following the correct regulations. So this is how you can soften the blow using the Paperwork Chef's P3 framework. People. Prepare your team for inspections. Ensure they understand their roles and the basics of food safety protocols. Your processes. Keep clear procedures for everything: cleaning, cooking, cooling, storage, receiving. Make sure everyone knows the playbook. And then your paperwork, your logs, and your documentation. They are your best defense. They prove that you're compliant, that you're following your procedure, and that you are handling that food safely. That's what your inspector's looking for. Now, all right, time for your weekly case study. This one's about a bakery owner, me. A few years ago, I had a cake business. I rented kitchen space from a banquet hall to prepare, package, and store baked goods. I offered pickup and delivery service, and I sold at temporary events like farmers markets. Then I began selling products to restaurants and convenience stores and shipping out of state due to selling over the internet, things that are common now. So I was considered a retail food business, or was I considered a manufacturer? Now, this business model actually occupies both spaces, and I'll explain. Renting that kitchen space and selling at local events and having people pick up and deliver the products, I was operating under the retail permit and regulations. I had direct customers who were buying products that I made locally. So the local city, county health department is where I had to start with my permitting and determining a location and the requirements. This is considered a retail food business. Now, once I started selling the baked goods to other retailers and crossing state borders, and the business became a food production facility, and the products and the location needed to be registered with the local well, actually with the state and with the feds, because at that point I became a processing facility because I was crossing state lines. This could have gone left if an inspector had visited me or ordered my products and online and saw that I wasn't properly registered or licensed. So here are some key takeaways to keep you in compliance with food safety regulations, should you be in that space like I was some years ago starting my business. First, you want to contact the appropriate regulatory body before you start your food business. This helps you determine the requirements you'll need to meet and what locations you should probably look into. Then when you expand or you change your business model, make sure you check back in. Let your inspector know what you're doing so that they can help refer you to the appropriate regulations. You don't have to have everything perfect when you start, but you have to have a plan that you can actively work to get there. And when you don't, you consult with a food business or food safety expert to help you develop and improve your people, processes, and paperwork to ensure you're in compliance. This week's Manage It Monday weekly action is to review your current policies and procedures and write a list of the food safety practices you currently follow. This week, I want you to review your checklist and note if you need to comply with federal, state, and or local regulations. Which one? Is it FDA, USDA, the local health department? Is it FSMA? Is it food code? What do you need to follow? Let us know in the comments. And if you're not sure, make sure to download our basic food safety checklist to help guide you through the process. If you're looking for more support on this topic, consider signing up with us. So check the comments for the download and also check the comments for our website so that you can tap in and have a coaching session. Now, of course, I have to send you off with a little positive energy. So let's take a moment to center yourself. Take a deep breath, hold for 3 seconds, and blow it out. Now do it 2 more times. Remember, regulators aren't the enemy. They are our partners in keeping food safe. They don't want to close you or give you a hard time, but they do want you to be safe. So when they show up, stay calm, stay prepared, and let your paperwork do the talking. Now repeat after me. Regulations are here to guide, not overwhelm. With clarity, I can navigate them step by step. And guess what? You will. So now I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining us for Manage It Mondays. And I can't wait to see you next week where we'll be talking people power. Take care and see you next week.